I pulled into my parents' driveway, flowers and a gift in hand, practically bouncing with excitement. Tomorrow was my baby brother's wedding, and I had flown across 3 states to be here. My Aunt Sharon stood in the doorway, watering plants. I called out how I could not wait for tomorrow, how beautiful everything would look. She dropped the watering can. Water pooled around her feet as she stared at me, face drained of color. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. The wedding was last week. The world tilted sideways. I stood there holding wilting roses in a carefully wrapped frame, feeling like someone had just spoken to me in a language I did not understand. Last week? That could not be right. I laughed, the sound hollow and strange even to my own ears. Aunt Sharon's face had gone pale, almost gray. She looked at me the way you might look at a ghost, or worse, like I was something she wished would disappear. Her mouth opened and closed several times before any sound came out. I meant it feels like last week, because time has been flying, she stammered, her eyes darting toward the house. You know how it is when you get older. Days blur together. But I had seen her face in that first moment. That was not confusion. That was fear. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands, opening the beautiful cream and gold invitation that had arrived at my apartment 5 weeks ago. The one I had pinned to my refrigerator, counting down the days. Rehearsal dinner, tonight at 6. Wedding ceremony, tomorrow at 3 in the afternoon. I turned the screen toward her. See? Tomorrow, June 15th. The ceremony is at St. Andrew's Church, reception at the Riverside Gardens. I have it all right here. Aunt Sharon squinted at my phone, and something flickered across her face. Something that looked like recognition, then panic. She backed away from me, nearly tripping over the overturned watering can. I need to go check on something in the kitchen, she said quickly. Too quickly. You should probably call your mother. She disappeared into the house before I could say another word, leaving me standing alone in the driveway, with my gifts and my confusion. My hands felt numb as I got back into my rental car. I sat there for a long moment, staring at the house I grew up in. The white colonial with blue shutters looked exactly the same as always. The rose bushes my mother planted when I was 10 still bloomed along the walkway. Everything looked normal. Everything felt wrong. I opened my phone again, this time scrolling to the family group chat. It had been quiet lately, which I had attributed to everyone being busy with last-minute wedding preparations. But as I scrolled up through the messages, my stomach began to sink. The last message I could see was from 3 weeks ago. Just a simple, "Have a good weekend" from my sister Melissa. Before that, scattered mundane messages about nothing important. I checked the chat settings, my breath caught in my throat. I was not in the group anymore. The participant list showed 17 family members. I was not among them. Someone had removed me. When had that happened? How had I not noticed? With trembling fingers, I tried to call my brother Justin. The phone rang once, then went silent. Straight to voicemail. I tried my mother. Same thing. My father. The same. A cold, creeping dread began to spread through my chest. This was not normal. This was not a misunderstanding about dates or busy family members forgetting to return calls. I opened Instagram, typing in the wedding hashtag that had been on the invitation, Justin and Amanda's big day. My finger hovered over the search button for just a moment before I pressed it. The screen filled with photos. Hundreds of them. My Aunt Martha in a lavender dress, beaming at the camera. Posted 8 days ago. My cousin Christopher with his wife and kids, all dressed up, standing in front of a church. Posted 8 days ago. My sister Melissa, in a bridesmaid dress, deep rose-colored silk, holding a bouquet of white peonies. Posted 8 days ago. I scrolled faster, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. There was my mother in an elegant navy gown, wiping away tears. My father in his best suit, smiling proudly. Uncle Frank and Uncle Robert, cousins I had not seen in years. Aunts and uncles and family, friends, all of them dressed up, all of them celebrating, all of them there. The ceremony had been outdoors, at a garden venue I did not recognize. Not St. Andrew's Church, not Riverside Gardens. White chairs arranged in neat rows, flower arbors dripping with roses and ivy. The photos were gorgeous, professional, like something out of a magazine. I found a photo of Justin and Amanda, my baby brother, who I had taught to ride a bike, who used to follow me around like a shadow when we were kids. He looked so happy in his black tuxedo, his arm around his bride. Amanda looked stunning in a lace gown that probably cost more than my car. My fingers shook as I tried to click on the photo to leave a comment. The screen flickered, then showed an error message. I tried again. Same error. Then I understood. I navigated to Justin's profile directly. The option to follow him was there, bright blue and waiting. I was not following him anymore. I clicked on my mother's profile. Same thing. My father. My sister. I had been blocked. By all of them. I scrolled through my notifications, going back weeks. The blocks had happened at different times, but all within the same 3-day period. 3 weeks ago. Right around the time I stopped seeing family group chat messages. This was not an accident. This was not a technical glitch or a misunderstanding. They had planned this. They had deliberately cut me out, blocked me from seeing anything, and given me a fake invitation to keep me away. My entire family had conspired to exclude me from my own brother's wedding. I sat in that rental car outside my childhood home, my phone clutched in my hand, trying to understand how this was possible, trying to understand what I had done that was so terrible they would do this to me. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. The message contained 3 photos, wedding photos. One showed Justin and Amanda cutting their cake. Another showed my parents dancing together, both of them laughing. The third was a group shot. The entire family arranged on the steps of the venue, everyone smiling, everyone present. Everyone except me. Below the photos, a message. They made sure you wouldn't come. Your brother signed the papers himself to remove you from everything. This wasn't an accident. Check the original invitation they sent you. I stared at the text, my mind racing. Who was this? How did they have these photos? But the message said something that made me pull the physical invitation from my purse. I had brought it with me, planning to have Justin and Amanda sign it as a keepsake. I turned on the overhead light in the car and examined the invitation closely. The cardstock felt thin, flimsier than I remembered. I pulled up a photo online of another wedding invitation from the same printing company based on the small logo in the corner. The paper was different. The font was slightly off. The embossing that should have been there was missing. Under the bright light, I could see it. This invitation was a copy, a recreation. Someone had made a fake invitation and sent it to me with a date, 1 week after the real wedding. I looked at the envelope, which I had also kept. The postmark date made my blood run cold. It had been mailed 3 weeks ago, 2 days after the actual wedding had already happened. I could not go back into that house. I could not face Aunt Sharon or anyone else until I understood what had happened and why. I drove to the hotel I had booked for the weekend, my mind spinning with questions that had no answers. The hotel room was generic and impersonal, which felt oddly comforting. I spread the fake invitation out on the desk next to my laptop and stared at it like it might suddenly explain itself. My phone rang. The unknown number again. I answered, my voice barely steady. Who is this? It's Derek. The voice was familiar, though I had not heard it in years. Your cousin Derek, from California. Derek was my second cousin on my father's side. He had moved to Los Angeles after college and rarely came back for family events. I had not seen him since my grandmother's funeral 4 years ago. How did you get these photos? I asked. My mom was there, at the wedding. His voice was tight with anger. I wasn't invited either, Paulette. When she came back and I saw photos on her phone, I started asking questions. She got weird and defensive. That's when I knew something was really wrong. I closed my eyes, pressing my palm against my forehead. You weren't invited either? No. And when I pushed her on it, she finally admitted there was a whole separate group chat for the real wedding planning. She called it Justin and Amanda's Big Day, Real Planning. They specifically excluded certain people. Who else? Me, you, and your cousin Timothy. The three of us. But you were the main target, Paulette. My mom let that slip. She said keeping you away was the priority. But why? My voice cracked. What did I do? That's what I've been trying to figure out. I called in some favors, talked to some people. Amanda's family is old money, Paulette. Like serious old money. Her mother is Patricia Henderson, of the Henderson banking family. The name meant nothing to me. I had met Amanda exactly twice, both times briefly at family dinners. She had seemed nice enough, if a bit reserved. Justin had been dating her for 2 years. They paid for everything, Derek continued. The whole wedding. And I mean everything. I'm talking a $200,000 event, maybe more. I felt sick. That's a lot of money. Yeah. And apparently Patricia Henderson had some very specific requirements about the guest list. My mom wouldn't give me details, but she said something that stuck with me. She said, "It's worth it to keep Paulette away. The Hendersons are paying for everything, and they're setting Justin up with opportunities we could never afford to pass up." The words hit me like a physical blow. I was traded away, sold for a fancy wedding, and whatever opportunities the Henderson family was offering. "I need to talk to my mother," I said, my voice hollow. "Good luck." I tried calling your parents after I figured this out. They wouldn't answer. That's when I decided to text you directly. I figured you had a right to know. After Derek hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. Then I opened my text messages and typed a message to my mother. "I know about the wedding. I know it was last week. I know you all lied to me." I hit send and waited. 30 minutes passed. Then my phone buzzed. "We can talk about this later." "Not now." The coldness of those words cut deeper than anything else. No apology, no explanation, just a dismissal. My fingers shook as I typed back. I need to know why. What did I do to deserve this? Another long wait. Then, Amanda's family had concerns. We had to make a choice. What concerns? What choice? But she did not respond again. I called Derek back. "Can you find out what concerns Amanda's family had about me? There has to be something specific." "I'm already on it," he said. "I have a friend who works in event planning in that social circle. She might know something. Give me a day." That night, I did not sleep. I lay in the dark hotel room, replaying every family interaction from the past year. Every phone call that got cut short. Every text that went unanswered. Every excuse about being too busy to visit. They had been pulling away for months, and I had been too trusting to see it. The next morning, Derek called me before I had even gotten out of bed. "I found something," he said without preamble. "Patricia Henderson told people you had an affair with a married man 2 years ago, a business associate of theirs. She said it made you morally unsuitable for family events, and she didn't want you anywhere near her daughter's wedding." I sat up so fast I nearly dropped the phone. "What? That's insane. I never had an affair with anyone." "I know. I told my friend that was impossible. You were finishing your master's degree 2 years ago. You were working yourself half to death at 2 jobs. I barely had time to sleep, let alone have a relationship with anyone, married or otherwise. My mind was reeling. This is completely made up. Who would tell her something like that? That's what we need to find out. False information had to come from somewhere. And if Patricia Henderson believed it enough to make excluding you a condition of her financial support, someone convinced her it was true. I spent the rest of the day working with Derek to trace back the rumor. It was like following a trail of breadcrumbs through family gossip, each person we talked to pointing us to someone else who had heard the story. Finally, we found the source. Brenda. My cousin Brenda. According to Derek's careful questioning, Brenda had told her mother, who was Aunt Sharon, about my supposed affair 18 months ago. Aunt Sharon had told other family members. The story had spread through family gossip channels and eventually reached Amanda's social circle through a distant connection. Brenda and I had worked at the same marketing firm 3 years ago, before I left for a better position at another company. We had never been close, but I had not thought we were enemies either. Derek called me late that night with the final piece of the puzzle. "I found an email," he said, his voice grim. "My mom keeps everything. I went through her inbox while she was out. There's an email from Brenda to a bunch of family members, including your parents. It's dated 8 months ago. What does it say?" She admits she made up the affair story. She says, and I quote, "I know it's petty, but I wanted to knock her down a peg. She's always so perfect. I was angry she got that promotion, and I didn't. I started the rumor at work, and it got back to some of her friends, but I didn't think it would go this far. Should I tell people it's not true?" My hands had gone numb. My parents saw this email. They were on the recipient list. Your mom, your dad, Aunt Sharon, Uncle Frank, and about 6 other people. They all knew, Paulette. They knew Brenda made it up, and they still chose to exclude you rather than defend you to Amanda's family. I sat in that hotel room, staring at the forwarded email Derek had sent me, reading Brenda's confession over and over until the words blurred together. My parents had known. They had known for 8 months that the story about me was a complete fabrication, a petty lie born from workplace jealousy. And they had said nothing, done nothing. When Amanda's family demanded I be excluded, my parents had simply agreed. I had to confront them. I had to look them in the eye and make them explain how they could do this. I drove to my parents' house the next morning. Both cars were in the driveway, which meant they were home. They had not answered my calls or responded to my texts beyond that one cold dismissal, but they could not ignore me if I was standing in their living room. I did not knock. I used my key, the one I had kept since high school, and walked straight in. My mother was in the kitchen, my father reading the newspaper at the table. They both looked up when I entered, and the expressions on their faces told me everything. They had been expecting this. "We need to talk," I said, placing my phone on the table with the email visible on the screen. "Right now." My father set down his newspaper slowly, carefully, like he was buying time to compose his response. My mother's jaw tightened. "Paulette, you need to understand," she began. "Understand what? That you knew Brenda made up lies about me? That you let Amanda's family believe those lies? That you blocked me and excluded me from my own brother's wedding? You don't understand the opportunity this marriage represents," my mother said, her voice taking on a defensive edge. "Amanda's family has connections we could only dream of. So you sold me out." The words came out flat, emotionless. I felt strangely calm, like I was watching this conversation happen to someone else. My father finally spoke. "It's not that simple. The Hendersons are an incredibly influential family. Patricia Henderson has very strong opinions about moral character and family reputation. When the story about you reached her, she made it clear that you could not be present at the wedding. And you didn't tell her the truth? That it was a lie?" My mother and father exchanged a look. In that moment, I saw something I had never seen before. Calculation. Cold, practical calculation. "We considered it," my father admitted. "But by the time we learned the full extent of the Hendersons' concerns, Justin had already been offered a position at Henderson Financial Group, a position with a starting salary of $250,000 a year. The number hung in the air between us. That's not all," my mother added, as if this would somehow make it better. "Your father and I were offered an investment opportunity through Henderson Investments, $50,000. Your sister's husband, Greg, received a contract for his construction company through Henderson Connections. It's worth over $300,000. I stared at them. You're telling me you all profited from excluding me? It's not like that, my mother said quickly. These are legitimate opportunities that will benefit the whole family. Justin's career is set for life. Greg's business is finally stable. We have financial security we've never had before. And all it cost was your daughter. My father's face hardened. You're being dramatic. You have your own life, your career, your house. You're doing fine on your own. This was a chance for the rest of the family to have opportunities like you've had. The words hit me like a slap. They actually believed this. They had convinced themselves that because I was independent and successful, I somehow owed them this sacrifice. The front door opened. Justin walked in, clearly not expecting to see me. He froze in the doorway, his face going pale. Paulette, I didn't know you were here. I thought you went back home. Did you? I turned to face my brother, this person I had protected and supported my entire life. Or did you just hope I would disappear quietly like I was supposed to? He looked at our parents, then back at me. Can we talk privately? No. Whatever you have to say, you can say it in front of them. Justin ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I recognized from childhood when he was anxious. I'm sorry you were hurt. I really am. But Amanda is my wife now. I had to put her first. Before the wedding even happened? You put a woman you'd known for 2 years ahead of your sister who's been there your entire life? You don't understand what her family is like. Patricia Henderson doesn't compromise on anything. When she heard the story about you, she said either you weren't invited or she wouldn't support the wedding. And it wasn't just the wedding, Paulette. It was my entire future. The job, the connections, everything. Did you even try to defend me? Did you tell them Brenda made it up? The silence that followed told me everything. I couldn't risk it, he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. Amanda's family connections could change my whole life. I couldn't risk losing that over something that happened in the past. Something that never happened, I corrected. That's the point, Justin. It was a lie, and you knew it was a lie, and you still chose money and status over me. He looked genuinely distressed, but not guilty enough. Not nearly guilty enough. What would you have had me do? Walk away from everything? Amanda would have left me. Her family would have ruined my reputation in the industry. I had to make a choice. You did make a choice. You all did. My mother stood up, smoothing her skirt. Paulette, this is getting us nowhere. What's done is done. We can't change the past. It's not like we're asking you for anything. Something in her tone made me pause. What do you mean? I mean, you have your own life, your job, your lake house that Grandma Jean left you. You're independent. You're fine. So yes, we made decisions that benefited the family, but it's not as if you've suffered any real loss. The lake house. My grandmother's property on Lake Mitchell left to me in her will 6 years ago because I had spent every summer there with her, helping her garden and maintain the property. It was my sanctuary, my private retreat. Then I remembered. The family reunion. We held it every year on the first weekend of August, always at the lake house. Family members would arrive with coolers and sleeping bags, filling every bedroom and spilling out onto air mattresses in the living room. 3 days of swimming and barbecues and loud, chaotic togetherness. The reunion? I said slowly. It's next month. My father nodded. First weekend of August, same as always. You're planning to come to my house? After all this? My mother frowned. Paulette, don't be ridiculous. It's a family tradition. Of course we're coming. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw I had been added back to a group chat. Not the main family chat, but a new one. The messages were already flying. Aunt Sharon. Can't wait for the lake house reunion. Kids are so excited. Cousin Christopher. Should we do the boat rental again this year? Uncle Frank. Bringing the big grill. Who wants to be in charge of the fish fry? And then, the message that made my blood run cold. Melissa. My sister. Should we ask Paulette first or just show up like usual? Brenda's response came 30 seconds later. She'll get over the wedding thing by then. She always forgives us. Just tell her we're coming. They did not even have the decency to pretend. They expected me to provide for them, host them, feed them, after everything they had done. They expected me to simply accept this, because that is what I had always done. I was the understanding one, the flexible one, the one who kept the peace. Not anymore. I looked at my parents, at Justin standing awkwardly in the doorway, and felt something shift inside me. A door closing, a lock sliding into place. I need to go, I said, picking up my phone. Where are you going? My mother asked. Home. My real home. I walked out of that house and did not look back. The month that followed was the strangest of my life. I went back to my apartment in Minneapolis, back to my job at the consulting firm, back to my routines. On the surface, everything looked normal. But inside, I was processing betrayal so deep it changed the way I saw the world. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Helen Cartwright, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense approach. She did not tell me what to feel or how to heal. She just asked questions that helped me understand what I already knew, but had been afraid to acknowledge. Your family has trained you to accept less than you deserve, she said during our third session. They've taught you that your role is to be understanding, to sacrifice, to make things easier for everyone else. And when you fulfill that role, they call it love. But that's not love, Paulette. That's exploitation. I spent a weekend at the lake house, alone. The property sat on 6 acres of wooded land, with 200 feet of private shoreline. The house itself was a sprawling ranch-style cabin that my grandfather had built in the 1960s. My grandmother had left it to me because I was the one who cared about it, who spent time there, who treated it like the sanctuary it was meant to be. I walked the perimeter of the property, noting where the old fence posts needed replacing. I kayaked out to the middle of the lake and floated there, listening to the water lap against the sides of the boat. I sat on the dock at sunset and watched the sky turn orange and pink and purple. This was mine, my space, my peace, and I was going to protect it. I made decisions during that weekend. Clear, firm decisions about boundaries and self-respect. I called a lawyer on Monday morning and had long conversations about property rights and legal protections. I called a locksmith and a security company. I made lists and plans, and I waited. The family group chat continued without me knowing I could see it now that I had been re-added. They talked about the reunion like it was a given. Who was bringing what food, which kids would share which room, whether the weather would be good for swimming. Not once did anyone ask me directly if I was willing to host. They simply assumed, just like they always had. Friday afternoon, August 3rd, I drove up to the lake house. I stopped at the small local grocery store and bought supplies for one person. A bottle of wine, fresh vegetables, good cheese, a novel I had been wanting to read. I was looking forward to a quiet, peaceful weekend. Alone. I had just settled onto the deck with a cup of coffee when I heard the cars coming up the long gravel driveway. 3 vehicles, packed with people and supplies. My parents in their SUV, Justin and Amanda in his sedan, Melissa, her husband Greg, and their 2 kids in their minivan. Behind them, Aunt Sharon's car with more relatives I could see through the windows. 12 people, maybe more. I set down my coffee and stood at the top of the deck stairs, waiting. They parked in a line, doors opening, everyone getting out with the easy familiarity of people who believed they belonged here. Coolers emerged from trunks. Children ran toward the lake. Adults called out greetings to each other. My father was the first to notice me standing there. He waved cheerfully, like this was any normal reunion weekend. Paulette, we made good time. Beautiful day for the lake. No one else seemed to notice anything wrong. They started unloading bags and supplies, making plans about who would sleep where, talking about what time to start dinner. I did not move, did not smile, did not respond. My mother came up the stairs carrying a casserole dish, and that's when she finally noticed my expression. She stopped 3 steps from the top. "Aren't you going to help us unload?" "No." The single word cut through the chatter. People stopped moving, turned to look at us. "What?" my mother asked, her smile faltering. "No one is unloading. You're not staying here." Confused silence. My father walked closer, his expression shifting from friendly to authoritative. "What are you talking about? It's reunion weekend. This is what we do. Not this year." "Not anymore." Justin stepped forward, Amanda beside him. "Paulette, what's going on? Everyone's here. We planned this." "You planned it, without asking me. You just assumed I would open my home to you after what you did." Melissa spoke up from near the minivan, her voice sharp. "After what we did? You're still upset about the wedding? That was over a month ago. You need to let it go." "Let it go." I repeated the words slowly. "You want me to let go of being lied to, blocked, excluded from my own brother's wedding based on false accusations you all knew were false. You want me to let go of being traded away so you could all profit from a rich family's connections. And now you show up at my house, uninvited, expecting me to host you like none of that happened." My father's voice took on the tone he used when he expected to be obeyed. "Paulette, this is family tradition. Don't be ridiculous. Let's all go inside, calm down, and talk about this like adults." We are talking like adults, and what I'm telling you, as an adult, is that you are not welcome here. Aunt Sharon finally spoke up, her voice trembling. "You don't mean that. Where are we supposed to go? The kids have been looking forward to this for weeks." "That's not my problem. You should have thought about that before you participated in excluding me from my brother's wedding." Brenda, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward. Her face was flushed with what I initially thought was embarrassment, but quickly realized was anger. "I apologized for that misunderstanding." "You're really going to hold a grudge over something I already said I was sorry for? You mean the lie you deliberately spread about me? The lie you admitted in an email was petty revenge? That misunderstanding?" Justin tried a different approach, his voice soft, pleading. "Paulette, I'm your brother. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But you're really going to turn your back on all of us? On the kids? On family?" I learned from the best. Amanda spoke for the first time, her voice cold and clipped. "Justin told me you'd be difficult about this. I told him you'd use the wedding as an excuse to cause drama." Something snapped inside me. "Difficult? Your mother demanded I be excluded based on lies, and my family chose your money over defending me. That's not drama, Amanda. That's betrayal." My mother's face had gone red. "After all we've done for you over the years, you're going to act like this? We raised you, supported you, helped you through college. And this is how you repay us? You want to talk about repayment? Let's talk about how I helped Dad with his business during the recession. Let's talk about the $5,000 I lent you when the roof needed repairs, which you never paid back. Let's talk about how I watched Melissa's kids every weekend for 2 years when she went back to school. Let's talk about all the times I was there for this family. And the one time I needed you to stand up for me, you chose money instead." The silence that followed was broken by Aunt Sharon, whose voice had gone from trembling to desperate. "You're being selfish. Do you know how much it cost us to find another place at the last minute? We can't afford hotels. We need this." "Need what? My house? My space? My generosity after you showed me none?" "You don't understand," my father said, his voice tight. "The Henderson money dried up. The investment opportunity turned out to be a scam. We lost $40,000. Justin was let go from his position 3 weeks ago." I stared at him. "What?" Justin would not meet my eyes. "The Hendersons found out I exaggerated some of my qualifications on my resume. Amanda's mother was furious. They gave me a severance package and told me to leave. They cut us off completely. Amanda and I can't afford our apartment anymore. The lease is up next month." And Greg's big contract? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Melissa's face crumpled. It fell through. The Hendersons pulled their recommendation. We're in debt from equipment we bought in preparation. The full picture came into focus. They had sold me out for money and connections that evaporated. And now they were here, expecting me to save them. So the opportunities you sacrificed me for all fell apart, and now you need me again. My mother's eyes were wet with tears, but her voice was hard. We made a mistake. We know that. But we're family. You're really going to abandon your family when we need help? You abandoned me first. My father took a step toward me, and something in his posture made me take a step back. You're being unreasonable. We need a place to stay, and you have 6 bedrooms sitting empty most of the year. Stop being petty, and let us in. No. Paulette. So help me. I've had the property surveyed and the boundaries posted. There are no trespassing signs up at every access point. I've informed the local sheriff's department that unauthorized people may attempt to access the property. The locks have all been changed. The security codes are different. You are not welcome here. Not this weekend. Not ever. Melissa burst into tears. How can you do this to us? To your own niece and nephew? Before I could respond, another car came up the driveway. A silver sedan I recognized. Derek got out, followed by 3 other people. Cousin Timothy from Oregon, whom I had not seen in 5 years. My Aunt Rachel, who lived in Florida, and Marcus, Derek's partner, whom I had met briefly at my grandmother's funeral. Derek walked straight up to the deck and stood beside me. Everything okay here? They were just leaving, I said. Marcus and Timothy started pulling out bags from the sedan. Aunt Rachel looked at my parents with an expression of pure disgust. I can't believe you actually showed up here expecting hospitality after what you did, she said to my mother. Did you really think Paulette would just roll over like she always has? My mother's face went from red to pale. Rachel, this doesn't concern you. It concerns all of us. When Derek told me what happened, I was horrified. I've been calling you for weeks trying to talk about this, and you wouldn't answer. Now I see why. Derek addressed the group gathered in the driveway. We've been talking. Those of us who were excluded or who are horrified by what happened. Grandma Jean left Paulette this house because she knew Paulette would respect it and care for it. The rest of you have treated it like a free hotel for years. That ends today. Timothy set down his bag and crossed his arms. When Derek told me about the wedding situation, I couldn't believe it. But then I started remembering all the times I felt pushed out of family events. All the times I wasn't included in planning. I thought I was being sensitive. Now I realize there's been a pattern of deciding who's in and who's out, based on what people can offer. That's not true, my father blustered. Really? Then why wasn't Derek invited to the wedding? Why wasn't Timothy? Why wasn't Aunt Rachel informed until after it happened? We all know why. The Hendersons wanted a specific image, and anyone who didn't fit that image was cut out. Marcus, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. His voice was calm but firm. I don't even know most of you, but I know what I see. A group of people who hurt someone, profited from hurting her, and now want something from her. That's not family. That's just people using each other. Aunt Rachel moved to stand with us on the deck. I support Paulette's decision 100%. This house is hers. These boundaries are hers to set. And frankly, after hearing everything Derek shared with me, I'm ashamed to be related to some of you. The group in the driveway had gone silent. Some of them looked ashamed. Others looked angry. Brenda was openly crying now, though whether from guilt or frustration, I could not tell. My mother tried one more time. Paulette, please? We have nowhere else to go this weekend. Can't we at least talk about this inside? There's nothing to talk about. You made your choices. I'm making mine. Justin's face had gone hard. Fine. But don't come crying to us when you need something someday. Family goes both ways. You're right. It does. Remember that. One by one, they got back in their cars. My mother was the last to move, standing at the base of the deck stairs, looking up at me with an expression I could not read. Hurt? Maybe? Or anger? Or just shock that I had finally said no. You'll regret this, she said quietly. The only thing I regret is not setting these boundaries sooner. We stood on that deck and watched them drive away, the sound of their cars fading into the distance. When the last one disappeared around the bend, I felt something release in my chest. Something that had been locked tight for longer than I realized. Derek put his hand on my shoulder. You okay? Yeah, I think I actually am. The weekend that followed was quiet and healing in ways I had not expected. Derek, Marcus, Timothy, and Aunt Rachel were easy guests, respectful and thoughtful. We cooked meals together, swam in the lake, stayed up late talking about family dynamics and the courage it takes to set boundaries. Aunt Rachel told me stories about my grandmother I had never heard, how she had dealt with similar family pressures, how she had learned to say no, how she had ultimately left her property to me because she saw in me the same struggles she had faced. She would be proud of you, Aunt Rachel said, as we sat on the dock watching the sunset on Sunday evening. Jean always said the hardest thing in the world was choosing yourself over family expectations. She spent half her life being the dutiful daughter, the perfect wife, the selfless mother. It wasn't until your grandfather died that she started living for herself. That's when she really started enjoying this place. I never knew she felt that way. She didn't talk about it much. But she saw how your family treated you, always expecting you to be flexible, to accommodate, to understand. She worried they would consume you the way her family consumed her. Aunt Rachel squeezed my hand. She'd be glad you finally said enough. When everyone left on Monday morning, I spent one more day alone at the lake house. I needed to think about what came next, how to move forward with this new reality where I had drawn a line and refused to cross back over it. I knew there would be consequences. There would be pressure to reconcile, to apologize, to pretend everything was fine. Family members would try to guilt me into backing down. Some might take sides. Others might just pretend nothing happened. But I also knew I could not go back. Dr. Cartwright had said something in our last session that kept echoing in my mind. Every time you accept poor treatment to keep the peace, you teach people that your peace is worth less than theirs. I had spent my whole life being the peacekeeper, the flexible one, the one who understood. What had it gotten me? Excluded from my own brother's wedding, used for my property and my generosity, valued only for what I could provide. I went back to Minneapolis on Tuesday morning, back to my apartment and my job. Life continued. Days turned into weeks. I heard nothing from my immediate family, which was its own kind of answer. Derek called regularly to check on me. Timothy sent funny texts. Aunt Rachel mailed me a card with a long letter about family and self-respect and the courage to stand alone when standing with others requires you to betray yourself. I thought about that a lot. The way my family had expected me to betray myself, to accept being slandered and excluded and lied to, all in the name of keeping the family intact. As if a family built on lies and conditional love was worth keeping intact. August turned into September. The leaves started changing color. I threw myself into work, took on challenging projects, went out with friends. I started dating someone I met through a colleague, a software engineer named Brian who was thoughtful and honest and treated me like my feelings mattered. Life went on. And then, in the second week of October, my phone rang. My mother's number. I almost did not answer. My finger hovered over the decline button. But curiosity won out. Hello, Paulette. Her voice sounded strained, tired. We need to talk. About what? Your father and I would like to see you. Can you come home for the weekend? Why? A long pause. Then, we need to discuss some things. Family things. It's important. I'm busy this weekend. Next weekend, then. Please, Paulette. It's urgent. Something in her tone made me wary. This was not the cold dismissiveness of our last conversation. This was something else. Desperation, maybe. What's going on? I'd rather discuss it in person. Please, just one weekend. We'll pay for your flight. That was new. My mother never offered to pay for anything. I'll think about it, I said, and hung up. I called Derek immediately. My mother just called. She wants me to come home. Says it's urgent. Do you know anything about this? Interesting timing, Derek said slowly. I heard through my mom that your parents had to sell their house. Something about financial trouble. They're downsizing to a rental. They sold the house? Last month, apparently. Your mom's been calling around to family members asking for help with moving expenses. My mom told her no. More pieces falling into place. The investment scam, the lost Henderson connections, whatever other financial decisions they had made assuming the wealth would continue. It had all collapsed. Do you think they want money? I asked. Probably. Or maybe they want to use your lake house. Wouldn't be the first time they saw you as a resource rather than a person. I did not go home that weekend, or the next. I told my mother I was too busy with work, which was partially true. But mostly, I just was not ready to face them, was not ready to be pulled back into their problems after they had shown so clearly I was not worth defending. Then, in early November, Justin called. I was so surprised to see his name on my phone that I answered without thinking. Paulette, please don't hang up. I said nothing, waiting. I need to talk to you. About everything. I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you. But I'm asking you, as your brother, to give me a chance to apologize properly. Are you calling because you're sorry? Or because you need something? The pause that followed told me everything. Both, he finally admitted. I am sorry. I've been thinking about what I did, about the choice I made. You're my sister. I should have stood up for you. I should have told Amanda's family the truth about Brenda's lies. I should have refused to go through with a wedding that excluded you. But you didn't. No, I didn't. And now Amanda and I are separated. She left me 2 weeks ago, moved back in with her parents. Turns out when the money and status disappeared, so did she. And I'm realizing I gave up the one person who actually cared about me for someone who only cared about what I could offer. I felt a flicker of sympathy, quickly followed by anger at myself for feeling it. This was the pattern, the cycle. They hurt me, faced consequences, came back with apologies, and I forgave them because that was my role. What do you want from me, Justin? I don't know. Forgiveness, maybe. A chance to rebuild what I broke. I'm staying with Mom and Dad in their rental, and it's made me see how much we all took from you without ever giving back. I want to do better. I want to be a better brother. That's good. You should do that. So, can we talk? In person? I'm not ready for that yet. Okay, I understand. But Paulette, there's something else you should know. Mom and Dad are planning something. I don't know all the details, but they've been talking about the lake house, about property rights and inheritance laws. I think they might try to make some kind of legal claim to it. My blood ran cold. On what grounds? I don't know. Maybe arguing that since Grandma was their mother, they should have had a say in how the property was distributed. I don't know if they have any legal standing, but they're desperate enough to try. I thought you should know. After Justin hung up, I immediately called my lawyer. We had a long conversation about property rights, wills, and the likelihood of a successful challenge to my grandmother's clearly stated wishes. She assured me that legally I was secure. But she also warned me that family legal battles could get ugly and expensive, even when the challenging party had no real case. I spent that night unable to sleep, staring at the ceiling, processing this new threat. They were not just expecting me to give in anymore. They were preparing to try to take from me. The next day, I made decisions. Clear, firm, final decisions. I drafted a letter to my parents, to Justin, to Melissa. I listed every boundary violation, every instance of being used, every time they had chosen convenience or profit over defending me. I stated clearly that I would not be participating in family events, would not be hosting anyone at the lake house, and would not be providing financial assistance or emotional labor to people who had shown they did not value me. I ended the letter with a single paragraph. I have spent my entire life trying to earn your love and respect by being understanding, flexible, and selfless. I have finally realized that nothing I do will be enough, because you do not see me as a whole person worthy of respect. You see me as a resource to be managed. I am removing myself from that dynamic permanently. If you choose to pursue legal action regarding the lake house, I will defend my rights vigorously. If you choose to respect my boundaries and leave me in peace, I will do the same for you. The choice is yours. I sent the letter via certified mail to ensure they could not claim they never received it. And then, I waited. The response came faster than I expected. 3 days after I sent the letter, my mother called. Then my father. Then Justin. Then Melissa. I did not answer any of the calls. They left voicemails ranging from angry to pleading to confused. Derek called on the 4th day, laughing. "You have stirred up a hornet's nest." My mom called me wanting to know what was going on. "Apparently your letter has the family in complete chaos." Good. Some of them are saying you're being cruel. Others are saying it's about time someone called out the way they treated you. There's apparently a huge fight happening in the family group chat. You know, the one you're not in. Let them fight. I'm done being the referee. 2 weeks later, on a cold Saturday morning in late November, I woke to my doorbell ringing insistently. I stumbled to the door in my pajamas and looked through the peephole. My mother stood on my doorstep, looking older and more tired than I had ever seen her. I opened the door but did not invite her in. "What are you doing here?" "I drove all night. We need to talk." I said everything I needed to say in the letter. "Paulette, please. I'm not here to fight. I'm not here to pressure you. I just need you to hear me out. 20 minutes. That's all I'm asking." Against my better judgment, I let her in. We sat at my kitchen table, a pot of coffee between us, and she talked. For the first time in my life, my mother talked to me like I was an adult, not a child to be managed or a resource to be utilized. She told me about the financial problems, how my father had made bad investments, believing the Henderson connections would protect them, how they had not just lost the $40,000 in the scam, but had taken out a second mortgage on the house based on expected returns that never materialized, how they had been forced to sell the house at a loss and were now renting a 2-bedroom apartment and fighting constantly about money. She told me about Justin and Amanda's marriage falling apart, how Amanda had revealed her true nature once the money disappeared, how she had berated Justin for embarrassing her family, how she had walked out without looking back. She told me about Melissa and Greg's struggles, how the construction company was on the verge of bankruptcy, how they might lose their house, how the stress was destroying their marriage. And finally, she told me about Brenda, how Brenda had been fired from her job for spreading false rumors about a coworker, how the incident had brought up her pattern of destructive behavior, how she was now in therapy, and had apparently written me a long apology letter she was too afraid to send. "I'm not telling you this to make you feel sorry for us," my mother said, her voice thick with exhaustion. "I'm telling you this because you deserve to know that the choices we made to exclude you have come back on us tenfold. We thought we were being practical, choosing opportunities over sentiment, but we were wrong. We were so wrong." I sipped my coffee and said nothing. "Your father and I have been married for 37 years. We've survived a lot together, but this might break us. He blames me for going along with Patricia Henderson's demands. I blame him for the financial decisions. We're both to blame, really. We chose money we didn't even get to keep over our own daughter." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked quietly. "Because you deserve an apology, a real one, not one motivated by needing something from you or trying to manipulate you back into the family. You deserve to hear that we were wrong, that we hurt you terribly, and that we have no excuse for what we did." She pulled out a folder from her bag and slid it across the table. "These are letters. From your father, from Justin, from Melissa, from several other family members. They all wanted me to give them to you. Some are apologies, some are explanations. Some are just people trying to process what they did and why they did it. I looked at the folder but did not open it. I'm not asking you to forgive us, my mother continued. I'm not asking you to come back to family events, or host us at the lake house, or pretend this never happened. I'm just asking you to know that we see what we did. We see how badly we failed you, and we're sorry. She stood up, leaving the folder on the table. Thank you for the coffee, and thank you for letting me say what I needed to say. Wait, I said, as she turned toward the door. Are you and Dad still planning to challenge Grandma's will? She looked genuinely shocked. What? No. Where did you hear that? Justin told me you were talking about property rights and inheritance laws. Oh, she sighed heavily. We were talking about it, yes. Your father was desperate and angry and looking for any solution to our financial problems. But I told him absolutely not. Jean left you that property because she wanted you to have it. She knew what she was doing. I won't let him take that from you, too. After she left, I sat with that folder for 3 days before I opened it. When I finally did, I read every letter. Some were genuine apologies with real self-reflection. Others were just excuses dressed up as explanations. Justin's letter was particularly hard to read, full of regret and self-awareness that came too late. But it was my father's letter that surprised me most. It was short, only 1 page, and the handwriting was shaky. Paulette, I have been a poor father to you. I prioritized ambition and status over love and loyalty. I taught my son to do the same, and now I see where that teaching leads, to broken relationships and hollow achievements. Your grandmother tried to warn me once that I was raising my children to be successful but not to be good. I did not understand what she meant until now. I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I want you to know that I finally see what I should have seen all along. You are worth more than any opportunity, any connection, any amount of money. You always were. I am sorry I learned this lesson too late. Your father. I cried when I read it. Not because I was ready to forgive him, but because it was the first time he had ever acknowledged seeing me as more than a child to be directed or a problem to be solved. I called Dr. Cartwright, and we had a long session about grief and boundaries and the difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. You can acknowledge their apologies without removing your boundaries, she said. You can grieve what you lost without going back to people who hurt you. Healing doesn't always mean restoration. Sometimes it just means acceptance. In December, Derek called with news. Timothy and I are organizing a different kind of Christmas gathering. No pressure, no obligations, just the people who want to celebrate together. Aunt Rachel will be there. Marcus and I are hosting at our place in California. We'd love for you to come. I went. It was small, just 8 of us, and it was the most peaceful holiday I had had in years. We cooked together, exchanged simple gifts, watched movies, and talked about building chosen families rather than just accepting the families we were born into. On Christmas morning, I woke to a text from Justin. Merry Christmas, sis. No pressure to respond. Just wanted you to know I'm thinking of you. I've started therapy, working on understanding why I made the choices I made. You were right about everything. I hope someday I can be the brother you deserved. I did not respond right away, but later that night, after too much wine and a long talk with Derek about forgiveness and healing, I sent back a single message. Thank you for saying that. I'm glad you're in therapy. Keep working on yourself. Maybe someday we can talk. It was not reconciliation, it was not forgiveness, but it was the first crack in the door. The first acknowledgement that maybe, someday, something could be rebuilt. Not the same relationship we had before. That was gone forever. But maybe something new, something more honest. 6 months have passed since that Christmas text. It is now June, a full year since the wedding that changed everything. I am sitting on the dock at the lake house, watching the sun set over the water, just like I did that weekend when I first set my boundaries. But this time, I am not alone. Brian is here, the man I have been dating for 8 months. He is inside making dinner, and I can hear him singing off key to music on his phone. Derek and Marcus are coming up next weekend. Aunt Rachel will be here in July. Timothy is planning a visit in August with his new girlfriend. We are building our own traditions, our own version of family, based on respect and honesty, rather than obligation and guilt. My relationship with my immediate family is complicated. My mother and I talk on the phone once a month, careful conversations where we stay on safe topics. My father sent me a birthday card with a gift card inside and a note that said simply, "I'm still working on being better." Justin and I have had coffee twice. Both times were awkward, but not hostile. He is genuinely trying to understand what he did and why. He tells me about his therapy sessions, about the patterns he is recognizing, about the work he is doing to become someone who values people over opportunities. I do not know if we will ever be close again, but I appreciate his effort. Melissa and I have not spoken. She sent one email apologizing, but it felt perfunctory, like something someone told her she should do. I responded politely, but did not open the door to more. I am at peace with that. Brenda sent her letter of apology. It was long and detailed and seemed genuine. I read it, acknowledged it, and filed it away. I do not need to maintain a relationship with her to accept that she has done her own work on understanding why she hurt me. The family reunion happened last month, but not here. They rented a pavilion at a state park 2 hours away. I heard it was smaller than usual, just the core group, and apparently there were a lot of difficult conversations. I was not invited, and I did not expect to be. That chapter is closed. What I have learned over this past year has changed me in fundamental ways. I have learned that love without respect is not love. I have learned that family is a verb, not a noun. It is something you do, not something you are. I have learned that setting boundaries is not cruel or selfish. It is necessary for survival. Every time I had accepted poor treatment to keep the peace, I had taught people that my peace mattered less than theirs. I have learned that you cannot make people value you. You can only decide whether to stay in relationships where you are not valued. And choosing to leave those relationships, even when they are with family, is not abandonment. It is self-preservation. I have learned that forgiveness and reconciliation are not the same thing. I can forgive people for not being who I needed them to be without allowing them back into my life to hurt me again. I can acknowledge their growth without trusting that growth enough to remove my boundaries. Most importantly, I have learned that chosen family is just as real, just as valid as blood family. The people who show up for you, who respect you, who see your worth, those are your real family. And I am blessed to have found mine. Brian comes out onto the dock carrying 2 plates of pasta and a bottle of wine. He sets them down carefully and sits beside me, putting his arm around my shoulders. "What are you thinking about?" he asks. How different my life is now from a year ago. Better or worse? I look around at this place I love, at this man who treats me with kindness, at the peaceful quiet that comes from knowing my worth and defending it. So much better, I say. So much better. The sun sinks below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Tomorrow, I will kayak out to the middle of the lake, like I do every morning I am here. I will work on the manuscript for the book I have started writing about family dynamics and boundaries. I will video chat with Derek and laugh about something ridiculous Marcus did. I will live my life, surrounded by people who chose to love me and whom I chose to love back. It took losing my family of origin to find my real family. It took being excluded and betrayed to learn the value of including and defending myself. It took hitting rock bottom in terms of family relationships to build something better from the ground up. Would I change what happened if I could? The pain, the betrayal, the awful realization that the people I loved most had been willing to sacrifice me for money and status? I do not know. Because that pain led me here, to this dock, to this peace, to this understanding of my own worth. Sometimes you have to lose everything to realize what actually matters. And what matters is this: being true to yourself, setting boundaries that protect your peace, building relationships based on mutual respect, and understanding that you teach people how to treat you by what you are willing to accept. I spent 32 years accepting less than I deserved because I thought that was what family meant. Now I know better. Family means showing up. Family means defending each other. Family means choosing love over convenience. And when blood family fails to do that, you find or create family that will. I raise my wine glass to the setting sun, to the year behind me, to the peace I have found. Brian raises his glass too, though he does not know exactly what we are toasting. To chosen family, I say. To chosen family, he echoes. We drink, and I feel, perhaps for the first time in my life, completely and utterly at peace with who I am and the choices I have made. So let me ask you something. Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your self-respect? Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who did not understand why you needed them? How did you find the courage to put yourself first when everything in you said to sacrifice for the sake of others? These are hard questions, and there are no easy answers. But I hope my story helps you understand that choosing yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. And the peace you find on the other side of that choice is worth every difficult conversation, every awkward family gathering you miss, every relationship that falls away, because it was built on your willingness to accept less than you deserve. If this story resonated with you, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you dealt with similar family dynamics? How did you handle it? Please share your experiences. Like this video if it spoke to you. Subscribe for more stories about real-life challenges and the courage it takes to overcome them. And share this with anyone who might need to hear that it is okay to choose themselves. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. And remember, your peace matters. Your boundaries matter. You matter. Take care of yourselves out there. You deserve to be surrounded by people who see your worth and celebrate it, not people who only value what you can provide for them. Until next time, choose yourself. You are worth it.